come together. You know, we've been, it's over a year now that we've been doing our come together, our virtual come together, and it's been kind of a movement from healing our city to come together and uncommon threads in ways that we've gathered in multiple ways, and we continue and are excited that how we will continue to grow this year as we come together for racial justice. And I'm Pastor Kelly Chatman. I'm the director for the Center for Leadership and Neighborhood Engagement. And again, we're really blessed and excited this evening to have Kendrick and Manny as our reflection leaders. And so we really look forward to hearing from them and entering into conversation with one another. And again, just a reminder that the momentum that we have for this come together, it really builds on a relationship and a deepening relationship as a core value. And so in the process, when we get to the breakout time, that's really kind of the crescendo of our time together, where you get to, in our chat room, to converse with one another, to really listen deeply from one another, and to digest this rich time that we have together. And again, we're so blessed to have Manny and Kendrick today. And I just think about how often it is that we hear from, well, actually, we don't actually hear the voices of BIPOC and leaders. Our understanding, our images come from the news, from television, from media. And so we actually have the opportunity to hear the voices of a couple of amazing young leaders in our community. And again, you'll be hearing more about them as our time together unfolds. So our process begins with this time of welcoming and then moves into our centering time. And the centering is music and a reflection that we will have. And then we'll have land acknowledgement and some time to kind of just center ourselves. And that kind of somatic practice of just really listening to our bodies, and our minds, our spirits, and as we continue in this process, really of listening, not only to some amazing reflection leaders, but ourselves internally and externally. And then after the reflection time that with Manny and Kendrick, then we'll have time to connect into the breakouts. And again, the breakout time is really the kind of the crescendo of the time where you get to say, you know, what we heard, how did that impact us? How did that inspire us? And then in the sending what's next, and being able to share with you some of the exciting things and plans that we have for the months and years ahead. So we begin with our land acknowledgement, and again, centering ourselves, recognizing that the land that we're on as we gather tonight, and asking the question, how do we build true relationships across difference? We acknowledge the sacred lands on which we stand, that the Center for Leadership and Neighborhood Engagement is located on the ancestral homeland of the Dakota people. And we're close proximity to a land of the Anishinaabe and Ho-Chunk peoples. And this land was stewarded by the Dakota people for generations. And the United States government effectively stole this land from the people through a series of unjust treaties and broken promises, but followed by targeted efforts of genocide and ethnic cleansing and forced removal. So with this, we repent and we commit to doing better. So we look now to the Dakota people and all Native American communities as examples of resilience and resistance and strength. And we acknowledge grateful to have the opportunity to learn and to work in this community on this territory. But as we enter into our conversations of racial justice tonight, let us remain mindful of these broken covenants and commit to building trust. Again, welcome this evening. We appear to have lost.
What is your superpower?
I like to think that I'm charming. I don't know.
Maybe Lego sets because I love building Legos. Even though they're hard, they're pretty quick.
I'm really good at making a trumpet noise with my mouth. Like I just was born being good at that.
I can make a bird sound, like a real bird sound.
Just press OK.
Superpowers. I can make anybody smile. And the other one, I can fart on command.
No! We'll take your word for it.
My superpower is definitely dance.
I could do somersaults. I can camouflage because I got camouflage pants and camouflage shoes from Amazon. I don't know. I'm really good at math. Reading. Making stuff.
I'm actually very good at mimicking healthy versions of junk food.
The shouting count? I guess my stoicism, and I get that from my mom.
I'm comfortable with anybody.
I can talk to anybody, anywhere.
I could sit down in a room with you and I could just talk for at least an hour straight.
I can host a badass party.
Even if I'm not at my own party or in a big group of people, I don't try. I just always feel myself trying to include everyone that's around me.
I'm a good singer. I'm a good cook, and I don't judge.
I think I'm really good at connecting with animals. I work at a shelter and I feel like a lot of nervous animals just like naturally connect to me.
I'm a great friend. I can confidently say I make everyone feel loved and comfortable.
I think I'm very good at helping people not be anxious because I get very anxious and I know all the ways to help people not be anxious.
Well, when the muses are playing, I can really ride up a storm.
I just keep going. I don't care how exhausted I am or how tired I am. If something needs to get done, it gets done.
My superpower is swim. I think that if I don't swim, probably I could die.
I go out and walk every single morning for 2 miles. That's very important and very natural for me.
I think making people feel comfortable. I am a great listener.
I can put people at ease.
I think I can communicate with people, and I really like communicating with different people.
My superpower is empathy. I have the ability to connect with people and feel how they're feeling and talk to them as if their emotions are my emotions.
Well, again, good evening. Great to be together again. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Kendrick and Manny. And Kendrick and Manny are amazing younger leaders. Believe it or not, they're a little bit younger than I am. And so without further ado, let's kind of do your introduction as we go into our conversation. And you choose which one of you will go first. The first question is, if you would please describe your relationship with CLNE.
I'll crack it off. Hi, I'm Kendrick, everyone. Born and raised in North Minneapolis. Went to school in North Minneapolis all the way up until high school. Went to Roosevelt for high school, left Roosevelt, went to Gustavus, graduated 2014 with a BA in Communication Studies, minor in Political Science. And also 2 years ago, just graduated from Luther Seminary. And now I'm here with CLNE. I am the Director for Youth Outreach and Community Organizing. And my relationship with CLNE, I've known Pastor Kelly for years out on end since I was like in late elementary, high school, or not, late middle school, high school area, and always attending the church cookouts and going to a few of the events there. And so, you know, with PK being the executive director, just it's almost like a place of home, you know, and being able to be reconnected with CLNE brings me back to the community.
Hello, everyone. My name is Manny Lewis. I've been knowing Pastor Kelly for almost 15 years now. I started off connecting with Pastor Kelly through volunteering with the after school program when he was the pastor for Redeemer. I've been doing community work for about 15 years. I think that was my start of doing community work. Interesting. I've never thought about that. How did that happen? So my introduction to doing community work was through Pastor Kelly. I migrated from Chicago in 2007. I was about 16. And throughout the years, I've always stayed in North Minneapolis and I've always done work in the community.
Great, thank you. Now, would you please describe yourself in relationship to North Minneapolis?
I can take that one. I would say that I am a long-term resident of North Minneapolis. I've watched it change. I've seen before you had this bike shop on Glenwood, which was an idea that a couple of kids sat in a place called the Peace Palace, because that's what that was first. It had a dance studio, you had a music studio. We did after school programs in that place. And one day, literally, I can tell you, because I was the guy that wrote the song. So we were sitting there and we seen people riding bikes and I was just like, oh, people on bikes. And a year later, it's a bike shop with a coffee shop in it. So being able to walk past and see your investment in the community has been big. And that's what keeps me on the north side to this day.
Yeah, as I've shared before, I am a native of North Minneapolis, born and raised. And like many, I've seen many of the changes in Minneapolis. I would say it's a lot different in terms of having more community-oriented programs, especially at the local parks where I grew up. We always had people paid by the city to work and monitor the parks and just make sure that the kids were disciplined and had good manners and respect for one another, going on field trips and, doing fun and engaging activities. You don't really see that in the parks. You kind of see it like with some park board recreation spaces, but like the local parks that doesn't have like a gymnasium or football team or anything like that. And that's the kind of park I went to. I went to a park that didn't have any recreation space connected to it. It was just a local park. It's good to be back in the community and hopefully seeing some growth and no changes here. So.
Kendrick, do you want to say a little bit about the bike shop and your role in it?
I was one of those kids riding by. And I actually had some friends working for under Kent at the time. And I was like, y'all need some bikes because I'm not going to be bucking y'all all this time. And, connecting with Manny, connecting with Ken, I didn't know the idea was brought until I saw it behind the 16-plex in the basement where a bunch of bikes was gathered and they were working on them. And then years later, after I attended Gustavus and came back in 2013, PK toured me around the bike shop in the Redeemer campus, and I was actually surprised to see that it was something that was kicked off to be something more professional and with the business. And so it was good to see that in North Minneapolis. It was the first bike shop that I've ever seen and known to have been in North Minneapolis. So it was nice to have that, especially for the community there.
And you worked in it too.
Yeah, I was a mechanic, and I became an assistant manager at Venture North as well. So I got my hands dirty a little bit.
Thank you. So what unique gifts of leadership makes you both of you stand out?
Unique gifts of leadership. I think that the biggest thing for me when I hear the word leader, I think I used to think in the terms of like, okay, I have to be the front man for everything, or I have to be out there and do it all. But as I worked in a lot of communities and I also lived life more, I understood that leadership is support. That's what I do as a leader. I aid and assist you, and I am there to help you when I'll put it this way. We're on an island and I have the map, but everybody wants to walk the way they walk. As a leader, I understand that you're allowed to do that. But if you take a wrong turn or you misguided in a way, then I step in and say, hey, we're going this way. And this is why I have the map. So I think a lot of vulnerability is my unique gift to being a leader. Especially in communities like ours. It's not an easy task at all, to be honest, as a 32-year-old Black man in a sometimes, in a lot of spaces, impoverished community with a lot of at-risk young adults and youth, to be able to get up and say, I'm from where you from, I think how you think, but I want to do something different with my life. Like that in itself is a part of leadership. But to be able to be accepted and accept the people from your community, I'll end it there.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree a lot with what Manny said. Being a Black male growing up in North Minneapolis, you go through a lot of trials and tribulations. And I was someone who was fortunate to get out, to explore, going to Gustavus and receiving a higher education than what public schools provided for me. Having the opportunity to get my master's and travel to Nigeria and go see a whole new world. A lot of my peers that I grew up around, the only world they know is what we call the hood. Even when they leave and go to a different state, they're still going to a part of that state that is still considered the hood. And so they're not really getting their consciousness or reaching different levels of state of being in understanding that things could be greater if they go outside of those spaces. I had a privilege of going outside of those spaces, and being someone with a bachelor's degree and a master's and Black in my community, that already puts me in a potential space of being a leader. Especially for the next generation who, they're dealing with a lot more mental and emotional disadvantages, I would say, or disabilities. And being someone who has gone through it and been through it, I'm a face that they can look at and be like, okay, he's done it, so can I. And I can be that friendly reminder to them that it's not going to be easy. You're going to go through the trials and tribulations, but you decide the step and direction you take, and you make the most of that. And so, a gift for me was just being able to grow up in a community and not be consumed by it, get out and come back and now be a leader in my own community. So
he has a lot of perseverance.
Yes.
Well, thank you. We have about 20 more minutes, so I'm telling you that to remind myself.
Okay.
And if we seem a little distracted here, there's one fly that is driving us crazy.
I thought two, actually.
Yeah, and the baby.
Yeah. So, for many of us participating on come together on this virtual gathering, much of what we hear about education or police is from the media. So we'd love to hear from you directly in terms of to describe your background in relation to education.
Yeah, as a, I'm a person with my master's, and it hasn't been easy. I realized once I got to Gustavus that I wasn't giving an adequate education, and I was a straight A student. And it made me start to think about, if I'm a straight A student in a school where I'm a 3-sport athlete, I'm on the honor roll every session, and I'm a part of 3 organizations, and I can maintain a 3.9 GPA. How is it for those kids who don't do that? They're B, C, D, F students. And what is their future like? And it just shows me how much we have lacked and put into efforts of educating our children, educating the youth. And I feel like there needs to be a lot of policies that need to be pushed to make sure that kids is not only educated at their grade level, but beyond that, because kids are amazing. When you see them in their element, they're doing great things. That's where we learn our new culture and life from. We see new things coming out of the youth. But what opportunities are there when they graduate? It's almost like you start to see the school to prison pipeline being played out, especially in predominantly Black or colored schools, schools of color. They have less technology, less funding, less equipment, and staffing that will make sure that these kids are being educated at the proper level that they need to be on. And so being someone who has made it as far as I have, there's a lot of changes that need to happen in the education system. From what I've seen, and still today, when I listen to Dr. Umar, I don't know how to say his last name because he doesn't go by Johnson anymore. He has a book that talks about advocating for our children in the education system. Our Black children are more likely to be put into a special ed class 5 times the rate of white students, and it's like, okay, why is that? Black kids are more classified to have ADHD than it is for white kids, and so, and that's just a classification. It's not saying that they actually have these things, but when you say somebody have a disorder, now you're putting in their mind that this is a disorder, and then they're getting put into a box that don't even give them an opportunity to be great. And so there's a lot of changes that need to happen into the education system.
Literally everything he described about those children, I was that. I was in the special ed classes. I had the behavior disorder. I didn't get the guidance that I needed. I did make it to some college. The issue was I had no assistance where I needed it at. And growing up the way I did in these environments taught me 2 things. Never show anyone that you don't know anything, so don't ask for help. So do myself a disservice. And then also never admit you're wrong. So you have no vulnerability. So as it relates to education in Black and brown neighborhoods, the issue is that you are literally sent into a factory. They have an agenda. The books are outdated. The teachers don't want to be there because they're underpaid and the school is underfunded. When you have a teacher that cares, from my experience in life and mentoring youth, these teachers don't even have the tools that they need to teach you. They go into their own pockets to do some of this stuff sometimes. And then half of them go home so emotionally torn that they just quit, they give up. Like, we've seen this in real time. And as a young, just anybody that's young, that doesn't understand how they feel about everything in life, seeing that makes you discouraged even more. You have no motivation to find any willpower to do better for yourself because you don't understand what's happening. So that was that was my experience with education. What was the part 2 to the question?
Oh, you got it. You got it. Thank you. Okay. So another thing, again, moving on, the gift that we have in hearing your voice is 2 Black leaders, young leaders. What has been your experience and with police?
Oh man, I love this question. All right, I'm gonna be honest. I'm just gonna be blunt with y'all. I am stereotyped because I love my loud colored tennis shoes and I wear gold jewelry and I got dreadlocks. So like I have yet, okay, I'll be honest. I met a couple of cool cops, but the rest of them was like, look, dude, where are the drugs? I know you have them. Look at you. So my experience with police, honestly, has been horrible. So my solution is to stay as far away as possible from police. And it's sad because there are some decent police, right? But it's like, what's the saying? It's about apples, never mind. But it's like one apple rotten, then it spoils the bunch or something like that. And like, it's kind of true. Yeah, the same way like they would pay, okay, we're in the car together. If I'm in the car with Kendrick and I look like this and he's dressed like that, they're gonna be like, y'all were doing this thing. There is no, oh, you're a separate human being. And that's the hard part about dealing with police, because they can have a bad day with the African-American, then pull me over because I have the same color skin or maybe even like similar facial features. I'm gonna be treated with that same amount of aggression you gave him. And I did nothing to you. Like that is a horrifying experience to live through day to day. Driving my car to come sit to talk to you guys, I should not be looking out of my rearview mirror to prepare myself to be stopped. Like that is a hard life to live for anybody, on top of whatever else I got going on in life.
You know, my relationship with police officers, there's been many layers. You know, when I was a kid, you know, they were cool. You know, they'll come to the park, play with you, talk with you, and everything like that. But once I hit middle school and the muscle development came in and the gangbanging became a little harder in the community and more of my peers was doing it, I looked just like those in the community. I looked no different. I've encountered officers that I was friendly with over the years and they looking at me like I'm a suspect, you know, and it really like changed my heart about the police because I thought that, you know, I grew up, you know, some of them were really cool. I never really had bad encounters to start off with police officers. But once I started driving and having my license and everything, getting pulled over a lot was a thing. And I started to notice the difference between if I'm wearing a muscle tee or a regular t-shirt, that the encounter was a lot longer of a process than it was when I had my lettersman jacket on. That would say that I'm a, you know what I'm saying, 3-sport athlete. That would say that I'm on the honor roll, you know, and that I'm a part of these organizations. They see that, they're like, oh, you're a good kid. You know, oh, you're not like the rest of them, but I look like the rest of them, regardless of that, because I don't have that on, I get treated like everyone else. You know, and also with policing, you know, I've been assaulted by the police because I look like everyone else. A brother could have a gun in the community and we are classified as the one who has the gun. You know, and I also realized that even with that, they even try to control the narrative. They try to make it seem like I was a person with the gun in the narrative. They try to make it seem like I was aggressive and all these things. And they were far from it, you know, not having the full video to the scene, turning off their camera and then turning it back on when I was in the car. Like you start to see a lot of the institutional and systemic racism that is there. And truthfully, I felt that it was during a high time of advocating for Black lives especially after Jamar Clark, right before Fernando Castile. You know, a lot of my peers was sending me articles and videos of me being in the news days before I was assaulted. You know, I feel like when they researched me and saw me as a brother from Gustavus, not your typical brother. No, oh, this man educated. You know, he's doing work with youth in the community. Felt like they were trying to silence me. You know, and also not only that, I felt like I was targeted. You know, to be afraid of doing the good work God calls us to do, which is to make the world a better place for everyone. You know, I shouldn't have, after the situation, felt like I couldn't go to work the next day. I was afraid of walking out of my house because of what happened to me.
Yeah.
And then not only, you know, when I'm going through I was fortunate to go to church the next day, because I got assaulted on a Saturday. I got out 8 hours at 2:00 in the morning. And, you know, because I had a community, I was able to get help from that community to get a lawyer who did pro bono work for me and get the charges dropped. But even at the same time, this lawyer kept coming to me. Like, if you fight this is going to be on your record. What you could do is you could plead and pay $100 to talk with the police. Why do I have to pay to talk with them to get this off my record? They're the one who assaulted me. They came at me. I had nothing to do with the situation. But, you know, it just shows, like, you know, sometimes, and that's what happens to some people who are scared to, or don't have the time or energy to go through the process. They'll just give in with the deal. And that's why a lot of people who have misdemeanor charges or small charges, they're more likely to get processed again off of something else, and because they take the deal. So policing it's a deep one.
Yeah. I want to thank both of you, and particularly so much of that for us, we hear it as an issue. You're sharing this as an experience. And so thank you for sharing your experience with police. Thank you for sharing your experience with education. This is real. Right? So I'm going to ask you a question that isn't on the prepared questions, because I love it when you and Manny talk about what your aspiration is, what you want to do, what you want to contribute to the community. Almost like pretend we're not even here. So when you start thinking about what you want to do for children, young people in the community, can you talk about what some of that is? Some of your aspirations, some of your plans?
I got you, big fella. I'll start with that one. My goal is to at least see 10 African-American youth make it through college, or connect them to college from their freshman or 8th grade year. In a perfect world, would get these children and give them job training and life skills, because I can't live with these people and I can't go through what you go through every single night. But you know that when you wake up on a weekday, you'd have somewhere safe to be and you'd be getting actual guidance so that you can be the next leader. So my goal is to continue to challenge my community as I pay it forward and inspire other people for them to pay it forward and inspire other people.
That's a loaded question. You know, when I think about the work that I want to see happen with the youth, I think about seeing them sure about their future and sure about the direction they want to go in, realizing that anybody that's trying to hold them back is not in their corner, and that they should only work with people who are going to open the door. You know, and that's a lot of, you know, trials and tribulations I went through, you know, walking, you know, figuring out who is in my corner and who is not, who is really trying to push me to the next level and who is not. And, you know, growing up in a family where you don't have your mom and dad, you know, it's tough to know who you are. So I want to see the kids sure of who they are and sure of who they want to be. in the world. And that's making them a leader right then and there. We think that we want youth to just, go in the community and do this and do that. No, just be the best version of yourself. And the best version of yourself is who you create yourself to be. And you love that version of yourself. And so that's what I want to see in the work that I do with the youth, or even in any community, with anybody.
Well, thank you. One more question, and it's the one that you know it's going to come. And again, thank you so much for this evening. CLNE, we're so blessed to have you, not just working at CLNE, but leading CLNE. So thank you. But the final question is, what is your superpower?
Don't pick one, you got a lot.
You're right.
I got you, I'll go crazy. Superpower. One would be adaptability, relatability, and overall being able to step out and have a bird's eye view of things. For a long time, myself personally, I took everything personally because of all the trauma that I went through in my life. And as I slowly grew spiritually, the biggest shift happened for me when I continued to go through things that nobody caused. Life just happened. We're all human and life just happens to all of us. So you go through one obstacle, you get through the next hurdle, then you have a devastating travesty, then another devastation and another one. And you realize, whoa, nobody's doing this to me. Because for a long time, I was around so many people that could not see that you can change your situation. Kendrick's the inspiration, not just the youth to me. He's a year younger than me. He has a master's degree. I also have another friend that has a master's degree. Most people around me has graduated, got bachelor's and master's degrees. But for some reason, life kept happening to me. So what I finally understood was I control my life if I allow myself to. We grow up not trusting ourselves. So that bird's eye view came from me being willing to trust me. So if I can trust me, then I can allow other people to trust me. And I can also stop thinking about what I want and see what's needed. And that's why I'm a superhero.
I've actually had dreams of me being a superhero. Flying around, having Spider-Man powers and all of that. My superpower, I would say, my connection and relationship with God. I've always had one, even before going to church, even before knowing religion existed. And the protection that God provided me as a child, I wished it was instilled in every child on earth, even at the time that I was growing up and now, because that relationship protected me from many harmful spaces. It is actually what has gotten me to where I am today. Outside of the guidance of adults and peers and parents and things like that, when I'm navigating the community by myself, God was with me, and there was times, when I think about walking down the street, headphones on, music blasted, it's 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night, I'm walking home, and not once have I ever been mugged, jumped, or, snatched up to be kidnapped or anything like that. I only could thank God, and now I have an opportunity to give back this love and light that God has given me throughout my life with others, you know, and, you know, that actually led me to going to church and figuring like, hey, I want a relationship with God, but what does that mean? I don't know, you know, leaving the church and going on my own spiritual journey. Now I'm back and now I got my master's in divinity and consider pastoring a church where I hope to get serve other people, because I can't help other people. I only can serve other people. People have to help themselves. And I want to serve, I will say my superpower would be able to serve other people to see their personal relationship with God and the connection with God that is there all the time. It's just a matter of opening their ears, their hearts, their minds to it. You know, just like it says in Matthew 22, love God with all your heart, with all your mind, and with all your strength. I mean, I didn't know that I was doing that as a kid, you know, but when I look back, I realized that, man, I always wanted this connection with God, and that has blessed me even up to this day. So
thank you both very much. Now we're going to transition into our time of going deeper, our breakout time. Actually, where you and your small group get to use your superpower by introducing yourself, choosing any of the questions from the list to focus on listening. We mean deep listening, listening with the reverence for the voice of others in the conversation, to hear from each other in your group, and to speak from your own experience with I statements. And so the kind of centering questions that we have are like, what stories did you connect with from Kendrick and Manny? What jumped out for you? And what challenged you? So this is a time that we kind of go deep into that conversation and using our superpower of relationship.
My breakout room early. But I just, since I'm here, I'm just gonna take the opportunity to say, Manny, how much I appreciate you taking the time to come here and, you know, share with us your story. I think a lot of people don't have the opportunity to hear from people, and it's not your job to educate white people about your experience. But, you know, the fact that you're willing to do that is, you know, take time out of your evening. And yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate Kendrick doing that as well. It's not something you need to do.
No, I disagree. We need to do this. This is what's needed. And thank you guys for showing up. We need to do this as community. This is the only way we make things better. On a local scale. Nothing can be global if we don't do it locally first. So thank all of you for even being interested in listening to our stories.
For sure.
As equals. Well, welcome back. Welcome back. Feel free to share comments in the chat. And raise your hand if you have a comment that you want to question. Manny and Kendrick can answer questions you may have. And our tech team, Rachel's someone to read the questions because we don't see the chat here in our room. Again, welcome back, everyone. We have about 10 minutes to brief comments. Share questions. Yes, Diane.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Reverend Chapman, first of all, and Manny and Kendrick for sharing your stories. What came up for me at the end there was, of course, both of your answers, being, you know, a superpower, what makes you a superpower. And I feel that you both were, you know, basically saying something that was very spiritual to both, to you, Manny, and to Kendrick. And I identify with that because as a young girl growing up in East Texas, I grew up in the church, and I had some family struggles when I was growing up, some struggles with school, some school when I was in junior high school and high school, just some general struggles that a lot of young Black girls go through. But because of that connection, what you were talking about, I was able to I think not change the direction of my life, because I don't think I was ever off on a really bad track, but keep on track with what I knew was the right thing to do, and to know that I could, first of all, as a little girl, I wanted to get out of Texas, but I had a trajectory from my life, and I knew that it could be things that I dreamed about. It could be that. And so I have two sons. They are adults with children, and those are some of the things that I passed on to them. So you two will pass it on to your children if you choose to have them.
I will.
Right.
Or if you do have them. So I'm not a religious person at this point, but I am a spiritual person, and I love that thing we call God energy. I think it's something that we all have, whether we acknowledge it or not.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Well, thank you, Diane.
Thank you so much.
Diane, thank you. I also want to mention that both Kendrick and Manny are working with voter registration. Diane is with the League of Women Voters.
Oh,
thank you.
Fantastic.
Well, nice to meet you.
Yes.
Nice to meet you. You should come talk to our group.
Yes, absolutely. No, seriously.
Yeah, no.
You're giggling, but if that's a possibility, let's talk about it.
Yeah, we will do that.
All right. Yeah. Other reflections, comments, questions?
Pastor Kelly, there's some great reflections in the chat from Craig, Jenny, and Carolyn.
Okay.
Would you want to read those? Share those?
I'd love to. Yeah. Craig says that he met with Vernon and Carolyn with a powerful conversation about activism in their lives. And he was impressed with how both are active politically and in their churches. And then Jenny shares that they talked a lot about Manny and Kendrick's experiences with the police and how we were wondering how they think we might be able to bring police and communities together to better communicate and understand each other. Such an enormous question, of course. Do you want to pause there? And
yeah, that's not hard. I think, especially it's, again, being vulnerable enough. It takes men like me and Kendrick to be able to talk to the police in front of our peers. Number one, like no matter how much trauma or PTSD I have with the police, if the police are walking past in my neighborhood, I say hello in front of the same dudes that sell drugs. So I can be labeled a snitch. And I used to sell drugs. I used to be in a gang. Like, it takes the same person that did the dirt with you to wash his hands. Somebody has to do it. Again, vulnerability. If you're not willing to stand up for anything, then nobody's gonna see that. Those kids that's riding past, that's just going to the store, they're gonna be like, we don't like the police because he don't like the police and he worked with the community. How is that possible? So yeah, we have like past traumas and things like that, but a guy like he and I won't speak for him, but it's just those, to answer your question, it takes more of us. So we have to encourage more thinkers like us, more livers like us, more people that are in our community to do the same that he or I would do.
I would say there needs to be more accountability with the officers who are doing wrong. because it sheds bad light on the officers who actually are doing the good deeds in the community. Because like I was sharing with Manny earlier, you know, you're guilty by association. You're guilty when you don't speak up, and normally you don't speak up because you don't want to go against your, you know, the police family code or whatever that they have. But if we really want to make a huge change, I'll say it's with the policy that lies. You know, a lot of these officers don't live in the community, so they leave. They're not emotionally tied to the community. You know, in 1991, there was a policy saying that you no longer have to live in the community to police it. And so, you know, they're going into their comfortable community, their nice community, their quiet community and things like that. But when they come into our community, in a community largely infested with poverty, which forces a lot of these kids into the gang life, into the drug life, because they want fast money, you know, or the system, the employment system is not employing the kids, you know, or you're not old enough and you want the next best thing. But I would say that is getting back to having community police officers, you know, and when you're in the community, you live in the community, you're tied to that community. You want to see the best for that community. But when you're coming from all the way out from, you know, Burnsville and farther out from there, and you're policing in Minneapolis, Minnesota, specifically North Side or South Side, you're not connected to that community or the kids in that community. And if it's a predominantly white community, you're not used to seeing Black people hanging out in your community on the block and going up to them, asking them, hey, how is it going? And why are you here? Or just being interested in their story rather than labeling them a criminal already. So,
you know, I'm just saying everything you said about police is also true for all of us who live outside of the community. And so that's part of what Come Together is to have authentic relationship with one another, because the way that we're structured sociologically doesn't have that opportunity that we have. So again, thank you so much for being present, for being relationship, bringing voice, and bringing community into our Come Together community. So may I have time for one more?
Looks like Anne has her hand up.
Well, and I see that there's also a question in the chat. How can we be helpful in this process from your point of view? We being me, how can I be helpful? I live in South Minneapolis, and I was very moved by your experiences and what you had to say, and also felt more hope too from listening to you, more hopeful. But I'd like to hear from you. What do you see? What ways can we be helpful?
Yeah, I'm on it. You know, growing up, we had a lot of the grandmas and aunties who opened their door to the kids in the community, or created a space for the kids in the community to have a positive space, sharing their wisdom, sharing their resources, and just sharing their love, you know, and they wasn't afraid of the kids in the community, you know, I grew up in a diverse community in North Minneapolis where I had white, Asians, Blacks, and so it wasn't just a matter of race during that time growing up, you know. In my family, we all had close relationships with the families in our community. So like I can go into any one of those houses and be taken care of. And I understand today's circumstances make it a little harder with like the mental capacity where it is today, and how drugs has infested the community a lot more compared to the 90s. You know, I would say the 90s was kind of like get into the height of the epidemic of the war on drugs. But yeah, no, just opening your door, opening your love to the kids in the community. And, you know, instead of seeing them as criminals, you know what I'm saying? See the human in them, see the spark of the divinity that exists inside of them, and just try to be of service in any kind of way. You know, when you show love, I'm guaranteed the kids will come around. The kids will come around, they're gonna want to be consumed by what's going on in the community, but they're gonna appreciate that love you share, and it's gonna go a long way for some, if not all.
Pretty soon, you guys are gonna start seeing youth programs through CLNE. You're sitting next to the director of youth in a community connected building. You guys are community. How would you like to connect with us? How would you like to build with us? These kids are gonna need tutors. They're gonna need resources. Some of this stuff may need donations. Any of your time that you can volunteer to do anything with us, you have access to us as a whole. So the best way to answer your question is that as we continue to try to help other young people become leaders and better their community, we'll have more answers. But as of now, we just need hope and support.
Thank you.
Well, thank you all. Because of the tyranny of time, we need to transition on as we come to our closing. Thank you all again. We will share some of what is coming up. And I can't think of a better way to transition than what was just shared, and the opportunity to come together as community and the support, particularly for Manny and Kendrick, and the work and the presence that they are and will continue to be in our community. So thank you again for a wonderful reunion tonight as we begin our succession of the months to come. So I'm looking for what's next? So a movie immersion opportunity, Just Mercy. So on Thursday, September the 22nd, there will be a Zoom or in-person movie on Just Mercy. Brian, can't think of Brian's last name right now. But Brian Stevenson, thank you, for Just Mercy. So that movie, and there will be an immersion opportunity for, there will be a team of folks that are going to go to Birmingham and in October for an immersion experience. And we'll be building more of those opportunities in the months and years ahead to actually journey and relationship and some of those opportunities. So stay tuned for more full offerings by joining our email list. We've got lots of works and plans coming in the near future. And so thank you again. And actually, we do have a couple more minutes as we share that. And we had a question that I didn't ask of Kendrick and Manny, similar to what needs to change about our racial justice system now. Maybe Kendrick, you would reframe that.
The question is what is missing from the current approach to racial justice? I was thinking about that question a lot, and I would say it's the reprogramming. In the 14th, 15th century, that's where the concept of black and white and all in between has become utilized in the daily life. And you got to think about what was it like then, forcing people to be like, oh, I'm white, I'm black, and I'm this and I'm that, compared to just being human and just being, self, And I'm reading this book by Malcolm right now. During his time growing up, they had a difference between being black and being Negro. His mother pushed a sense of being black, which gave them a sense of pride, and also gave them a respect in their community by white peers. Whereas when those who classified as Negro and also the struggle, they were treated as such. And so I see like a lot of my work is I've been reprogramming myself, but also wanting to instill that dignity and also pride into our youth who still sometimes have a hard time with self-identifying and loving the color of their skin, loving the being in which God created them to be, you know. So, I would say reprogramming our thoughts around race and start seeing the human and also divine spark of the creator in each and every one of us.
Manny, you can have the final 2 minutes.
I mean, just to piggyback off what Kendrick said, humanity is big, but I also feel like, look at the word injustice. That means somebody did something wrong, somebody did something right. What if we took that away and just live off of what he just said, programming? We're literally programmed to treat and interact with each other this way. So when do we, as people, and I don't know where it starts, that's a lie, it starts with us. Where do we, when you walk out your house tomorrow as white women in the suburbs, if you see a black guy with tattoos and a t-shirt on, don't clutch your purse or don't walk away too fast. Say hello and shock him. That's a start. I'll end with that.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all. It's great to be back together again. And we will rejoin in October, the 3rd Thursday of October. Thank you all. Have a wonderful evening.
Thanks for joining us. It was nice having you all. Yeah. Thanks for having us. Yeah.